Hello, my lovely listeners. This is Hoa welcoming you back to My Once Mousy Bride. This story, I had a lot of fun writing it, and it was dedicated to Ying Ya and Pao, and it was just the most incredible fun. While writing this story, I thought about a lot of different ways how I could have ended it, but I decided to end it this way, and I hope that you guys will like it. And here is My Once Mousy Bride, dedicated to Ying Ya and Pao, the final chapter.
He doesn't need fires, he's got his colors noticed on and on and on, turning heads to see the colors. It goes on and on and on and on. Stranger says he'll regret his armor. They don't get what it's like to be no one, no one, no one, no one.
Did he hear her correctly? Did she just ask him to kiss her? As much as he wanted to, he felt this came with a condition. With shaking hands, he gently pushed her away and tilted her chin up, his eyes searching for more than what she was saying. She had a soft heart, he knew that now, and just wanted to help. But what Elizabeth did, he couldn't forgive. It came at the cost of her. My lady, are you asking me to do what I so desire only to give in to what you want? He whispered. My lord, she said gently, I cannot stand the idea that she will hate me, or you. If I can do something about it, I would like to. He let out a deep breath and then reached over to touch her cheek. Surprisingly, she didn't pull away. I know you want to help her, but the idea that she can hurt you again in my absence has me turning her away from the manor. What if the next time I am too late? What if I cannot come in time? I do not want to live with my own guilt when it comes to the thought of you. You won't, she argued and climbed back onto him. She placed her hands around his neck and pulled him down toward her. If you'd like, you can be present when I speak to her. And if you doubt her, then we can go with your original plan. But I would just like to talk to her. He thought a moment and then he caved in. Fine, my lady. You have a way with me. She smiled, and she started to pull away when he held her in place. Her grin disappeared, and he positioned his hand on her back, keeping her in place. Why are you running from me? I have not done as you have asked of me, he whispered. When she blushed, he smiled and tilted her chin up toward him. I love it when your cheeks turn this color. My lord, she whispered softly, I am not the best at doing this. It's quite all right, darling. I am, and I can show you. Do you trust me? She didn't answer, and he took it as permission. He lowered his lips to hers and gently took over, at first, soft and slow, until she followed his rhythm, and then once she caught up, he quickened his pace. His hand moved up toward her back and caught the back of her head, tilting her head to where he could get the best, as she tightened her hands around his neck. And then when he pulled free from her lips and kissed her trail down to her neck where he lightly bit her flesh, she jumped in his hold and then pulled back, touching where he had nipped her. You bit me, she cried. Just a little. He took her hand off and ran a hand over the small, faint red dot from his teeth. No one will know. She blushed again. I quite enjoy that. He raised his eyebrows. That was nothing, darling. I have more when it comes to pleasure, but only when you feel comfortable. Can I try something? She asked. I'm all yours. She reached over and her hands landed on his buttons, and then she looked up at him with faint courage in her eyes and took a deep breath. He waited, and she slowly began to unbutton, leaving his shirt wide open, and she slipped a hand inside to lay on his hard chest. He lost control and pulled her toward him, kissing her even harder than before, and when he heard her muffled moan, softened against her. It was her who removed his shirt, and when he pulled away, looking at her, breathless, He saw that she was asking. Are you sure? He whispered as he touched her cheek lightly. Before I lose courage. Yes, she whispered back. Ying Ya woke up incredibly sore. Everywhere. Was making love with your husband supposed to leave you feeling this way? She woke up alone, as it was very late in the day already, and he probably had left to take care of affairs with the king. But she felt his kiss before he left her. Now she was aching everywhere and hungry. The door opened and Angie walked in with a tray, her eyes wide opened, and a smile on her face. My lady, dare I say how you are glowing right now? Am I? I am somewhat feeling good. Help me dress, and then off to the market we are. I'd like to purchase a few things to make for his lordship. The market was busy, and it was hot. The scorching sun wasn't going to let anyone easy today. Although she sported a hat and even carried an umbrella, she felt as if she was going to burn. Angie was behind her with two servants who were carrying items she was purchasing. She stopped and turned to a vendor who was selling some bracelets. One of them caught her eye. It was a brown stone that looked almost opal, and she reached out to touch it. My lady, that is known as a tiger stone. It is to ward off evil, the lady of the store said. Ying Ya flipped it around, and then she heard a voice behind her. She turned and found Duke Thor walking toward her with a grin. She put the bracelet back and stepped away quickly as he fell into step with her. Why are you following me? She asked. Am I not allowed to? No, I am a married woman. He laughed and reached out to stop her from walking. My lady, there is no rule or law anywhere that a married woman and a single man cannot walk together. It is not as if we are doing anything wrong unless your mind says so. She cleared her throat and gave him a weak smile. Duke Thor, what business do you have? It's a fine day, my lady. Am I not allowed to venture out and see what little trinkets I can buy? By the way, did you like that tiger stone? She ignored him and turned to Angie. Let's return. As she turned to go, he reached out suddenly and took her arm, causing her to lose her balance. He lifted her up and toward him as she brought her hands to stop him. Do not touch me, she cried as she pulled free from his hold. I have a husband, Duke Thor. He narrowed his gaze. Are you in love with him? I heard your marriage was decreed. How is it that Lord Pao has managed to win your heart so quickly? Duke Thor, before she could finish, he leaned over and planted a kiss on her cheek, and she gasped, stepping back. How dare you? Dare I not? Had you just listened to me and let me kiss you properly then in your parents' home, you would have learned that I am a much better man than your husband. Ying Ya felt her heart shatter at the thought that this man was someone she had fought to be a part of once. How was it that she never saw how rude he was? She reached up and touched her cheek where he'd kissed her. Anger shot through her heart and she felt cheated. Do not come near me. He reached out and grabbed her wrist again. This time pain shot through her hand. Let my lady go, Angie cried. His lordship will be made aware of your actions, Duke Thor. Release the lady now, the man behind Angie stated. Duke Thor tightened his hold and then yanked her toward him where he planned on kissing her. Angie grabbed the cabbage nearby and threw it at him. He stumbled backward and Ying Ya fell, twisting her ankle. He bent down to help her, but she pushed him away and Angie came to steady her. Grab the carriage. We are leaving now. Angie told the two men. One hurried and the other came to stand before them as Angie helped her stand. My lady, my apologies. I did not mean to hurt you, Duke Thor said with deep concern. No? Then what was your purpose then? She asked. To shame me? To shame my husband? Whatever you wanted to do, you had a purpose. Now leave me alone. The bruises and twisted ankle left Pao feeling sick to his stomach. He wanted to hurt someone. Someone called Duke Thor. Ying Ya was sitting on the bed, her cheeks flushed from the heat of the blanket, yet he wasn't willing to let her remove it. She needed comfort. My lord, please, she begged. He reached over and removed the blanket, making her let out a breath of relief. There was a knock at the door, and then Angie opened it, sticking her head in. What is it, Angie? My lord? It is Elizabeth. Let her come in, Ying Ya said as she adjusted herself. The door opened wider and Angie had disappeared as Elizabeth entered and closed the door behind her. She looked embarrassed as she walked to the center of the room. Do not be frightened, Ying Ya said. We're not going to hurt you. I thought I was being sold to the Americas, she said bitterly. Pao stood and walked to her. That was my intention, yes. But my lady has different thoughts. You better be grateful she could turn my head around. Otherwise, it would be off to the ships you are. Elizabeth's eyes narrowed and she turned to Ying Ya. What is the meaning of this? Ying Ya smiled and cleared her throat. I understand you were upset with me being here as a lady of the manor. I have forgiven you, Elizabeth, and I have asked his lordship to let you stay, so long as you learn your lesson and do not repeat it again. Hearts work in a funny manner. Sometimes they do not listen and have their own minds about things. It is simply that you wanted to be the lady of this manor and wasn't given that chance. The heart wants something different. You speak in riddles, Elizabeth said. I'd much rather be on the ship to Americas than to stay here and watch. She turned to him. Watch someone else be in your arms. Pao let out a deep breath. If you so wish, I can make it happen. She smiled and turned toward him. I do not want to be here unless I can be the lady of this manor. And then she turned back to Ying Ya. No matter what you say, you cannot win me over with your sweet voice. Perhaps Lord Pao can see that you're an angel, but to me, you're a devil who ruins dreams. She walked out of the room and Pao turned to her, finding her face pale and in disbelief. He walked to her and took her hand, pulling her into his arms. Darling, do not let her words affect you, he whispered. Did she just call me a devil? She asked. He chuckled and tilted her chin up. You are a devil. To be near you is to burn. How could she not want to be here and would rather be shipped off? I thought I was doing her a favor. He touched her cheek. Stop doing favors for them and start doing favors for me. And then he ran a thumb over her lower lip. Talk to me about Duke Thor. I want to rip his head off for even touching you. She looked away. He is not anyone of your concern. He was once an infatuation of my... Infatuation? He asked suddenly. You loved him? She paused and then thought a moment. I thought I was. I did not even know what love was. I just liked him really deep because he made me feel tingles in my toes. Now, I do not even know what I was thinking back then. He is hardly anyone to get heated over. I was so immature. He watched her without moving, and she raised her brows in questioning. My lord? What is wrong with you? She let out a breath. I am still stuck on the part where you said you were infatuated with him. She opened her mouth and then closed it. A mere slip of the tongue. My lord, please. I was young. How long ago? Shortly before the marriage decree arrived? He nearly choked. We are still newlyweds, my lady. Do you mean to say you married me while infatuated with another man? She rolled her eyes and moved away. I am not having this conversation with you. It is you I laid in bed and gave myself to. It is you I showered with kisses and not him. It is you I long to be held by and not him. Why are you arguing with me? He reached out and grabbed her, returning her to his hold, where he tucked a finger underneath her chin. My lady, my heart knows the truth, and it is with me that you are with. I was nearly jesting to see how your cheeks would flush. Oh, she whispered. If he comes near you again, I shall have to kill him. He's left me with no choice whatsoever, my lady. As soon as Ying Ya fell asleep, Pao went down the stairs and found Edward in his study hall. The man was standing in the corner as if he knew what was on Pao's mind already. Speak, Edward. Duke Thor is an infamous womanizer, my lord. Trained by the arts of seduction, he has devoured many young maidens, some well before their coming out season. A few of them have been known to retreat quietly into nunnery after a termination of pregnancy, not by their choice, of course. The servants who were with the lady today mentioned about how he kept pestering her and even managed to plant a kiss on her cheek. At the mention of this, Pao felt his hand curled into a fist. My lord, the man is a pebble that deserves to be grinded into dust. Pao thought a moment, and then he cleared his throat. Invite him for dinner. Edward paused. My lord? Yes, Pao continued. Invite him for dinner. I want him to see just how much she no longer cares for him. You called me here, Elizabeth said as Duke Thor joined her in the study hall. She had her bags packed, ready to join the ships to America when the servant gave her the letter. It requested for her to join Duke Thor at his manor. He smiled and sat down staring at her. You are not bad to look at. Why did the lordship turn you away? She ignored his question. Speak your purpose. He laughed and let out a long breath. Your lordship has someone I desire. You mean that so-called lady of the manor? Why would you desire her? Why would you desire him? She looked away. Exactly the same way you do for him. It is not something I ask anyone to understand. As long as I can get her, I am quite content. Now, since he has what I want, and she has what you want, I suggest we work together to get exactly what we desire. She turned to him and leaned forward. On what condition? I am not giving you my body. I did not ask for it, he whispered. This is more of a dark art. I just need your silence when it comes to this conversation. My lips are sealed. My lord, I heard that you have invited Duke Thor over for dinner, Ying Ya asked as she joined her husband in the den the following morning. He was neatly dressed, ready to meet the king, and he came to her, arms already reaching for her. She stepped into them, although she just spent the entire night in his arms. Of course I did. It is not a measure of male hormones, my lady, so rest your heart. It is merely to allow him to see that he is no longer the man you care for. Is that not right to do? He asked. She thought a moment. Perhaps you are right. She leaned up to kiss him gently. Then I shall see you tonight at dinner. Dinner was lavish, and Pao immediately knew that his wife had been the mind behind it all. When he changed and came down to join her in the hall, Edward announced the arrival of Duke Thor, but his face held a different expression he could not read. It was only when the man entered, and none other than Elizabeth on his arm, that he finally understood Edward's look. Elizabeth had cleaned up well, wearing one of the finest dresses of the latest fashion, and had a smirk on her face. Ying Ya smiled, and he walked to her as the two guests came in. For once I shall be dining at the table as a guest, and not serving as a help, Elizabeth said with a nose in the air. His lordship has never treated you as a help, Ying Ya said as she walked to the table. Pao pulled out a chair for her and gestured for the two guests to sit. Once they were seated, the servants began pouring ale all around. Everyone ate in silence. The chewing and utensils clacking was awkward. Lord Pao, Duke Thor said a moment later. He picked up his goblet of ale. I appreciate your kindness in extending a hand to invite me for dinner. He took his cup and raised it toward the man. I am honored that you grace the presence of my manor. Then Duke Thor's eyes landed on Ying Ya. And what does the lady think? Ying Ya looked up and smiled, although Pao noticed that it did not reach her eyes. Whatever manner my husband thinks of, I too think the same. Duke Thor began laughing. You know, Ying Ya, I once thought of you as a brilliant woman. Now that you've gained the title of lady in this manner, the intelligence seems to have dimmed. Do you dare to insult my wife with me present? Pao asked as he set his cup down. The man laughed and took a drink, then set his cup down and shook his head. I would not dare, my lord. But I have known your wife a lot longer than you have. Social seasons brought her out wearing the most amazing orange dress that caught the attention of everyone. I had the dance of the night. Do you remember, Ying Ya? Lady Ying Ya, she replied. Please, do not address me so informally, Duke Thor, and it was not an orange dress. She turned to Pao and smiled. It was the color of flame. Duke Thor chuckled. I have never heard of such a color. And that is why you are not the one I am married to, Ying Ya said. Duke Thor, the past is a page written in history for everyone. Look at Elizabeth. She paused. She used to serve the Lord and I, and today she is a fitting, fine young lady sitting next to you. Her servitude is merely a chapter in her book. It does not define her as a woman. Before Pao could answer, there was an explosion outside that disturbed them. He stood and shouted for Edward and the servants to attend outside. He rushed past the servants and noticed his barn was on fire. He removed the top of his shirt and began rushing in as everyone began bringing in water. The smoke consumed him and he coughed, burning his eyes and throat. And then suddenly, he stopped and turned back to the manor. His wife, his woman, his lady. This was a distraction. He quickly started running toward the manor and something hit him hard in the back of his head, where he fell to the ground and blacked out. Pao woke to the ache in his arms, and he realized he was chained, spread eagle, in a dark dungeon. He had been whipped, and blood was slowly seeping from his wounds. His head was spinning, and his mouth was swollen. What happened? Where was Ying Ya? The door opened, and Elizabeth walked in, her eyes holding a gaze that frightened him. "Elizabeth," he whispered, "it pains me to see you like this, my lord. If you had only allowed me to be the lady of your manor, this would never have had to happen." "Where's my wife?" he asked. Her eyes darkened. "You still ask of her? In the state you are in." She laughed and shook her head. "What kind of spell did she put on you?" He looked up at her and smiled. "Love. Something you will never understand, will you? Whatever did Duke Thor promise you?" She walked to him and touched his cheek. "He promised me you, as long as I could give him her. It pains me when you look at her the way you do. It should be me receiving those kind gazes. It should be me who you sleep wrapped around with." "You can dream your entire life, Elizabeth. I will never be delivering those to you." "And what of your wife? Do you believe she will never turn to Duke Thor?" His hands curled into fists. "What do you mean?" She laughed, and then the door opened and Ying Ya walked in with Duke Thor, but when he saw her loving gaze toward the other man, his heart sunk. What was wrong with this picture he was seeing before him? He watched as she suddenly reached over and touched his arm, pulling him near her. He stood on shaking legs and whispered her name. She turned toward him and cocked her head. "Who is that?" she asked. "Ying Ya!" Pao cried, but she looked at him as if he was a stranger. She simply ignored him and continued gazing up at Duke Thor. "Ying Ya, look at me!" She turned and gazed at him, a look of uncertainty in her eyes. "My lord, why does this man speak of my name as if we know each other? Yet I have never laid eyes on him before." "He is a prisoner I caught," Duke Thor said. "He has no meaning to you." And then he turned to Elizabeth. "Take her back to her chamber." Ying Ya didn't look at him as she simply walked out with Elizabeth, and the two were left alone. He felt his heart hammer against his chest as he cried for her, and she ignored him completely. Tears filled his eyes as he felt his gut being ripped from him. "What did you do to her?" he growled as Duke Thor came toward him. "What did you do to my wife?" "Your wife? Right now she has no idea who you are. She just believes you are a prisoner, and I am her legal husband. And tonight, I shall consummate our marriage." Pao let out a gut-wrenching growl, and Duke Thor grabbed the whip from the table, slapping it against his chest. The pain did nothing to ease the pain of another man touching her. Dropping the whip, Duke Thor came to him and leaned in close to him. "I shall now have everything you have ever claimed, including the woman you stole from me," he whispered. Ying Ya heard the door unlock and saw the man who called himself Duke Thor enter. He was holding a glass full of a liquid that was amber-like, and he gave it to her as soon as he reached her. She felt the room spin a bit, and she reached out to steady herself. Concern broke across his face as he set the glass down and came to take her hand. "Are you all right?" he asked. She shook her head. "I feel dizzy. The room is spinning, and my legs are weak." He helped her to sit down and then gave her the glass. "What is this?" "It is your tonic, to help you. The physician said you drink twice a day so you can remember." She swirled the liquid around in the glass, and something in her heart was heavy. She had woken up today with a huge headache and unaware of everything that was around her. She was told that this man called Duke Thor was her husband, and the man who was in chains earlier in the dungeon had stolen her and kept her captive. But somehow her heart was against this idea. She was unsure of everything, and she couldn't remember anything before this morning. But looking at the drink in her hand, she felt unsafe to drink it. "My lord," she said, changing subjects, in the hopes that it would distract him. "Where did I come from?" "My hometown. I should like to visit. Maybe it will help me remember some things." He smiled and touched her cheek. "I can plan a trip for us once you are well." And then he motioned to the glass. "Drink." Fear settled into her heart, and she tried to think of a solution. She smiled and then suddenly lost control of herself, falling forward, the glass breaking into tiny pieces. The liquid seeped onto the floor as he called her name and bent down to help her. "What is it?" he asked. "I do not feel well," she whispered softly. He helped her to bed, and when he tried to kiss her, she backed away from him. He looked at her with an angry gaze, and it disappeared, replacing with a softness that wasn't genuine. Fear heightened in her as his hands found himself squeezing her flesh. Pain shot through her, and then he stopped altogether. Standing, he cleared his throat and gave her a weak smile. You rest, my lady." As he walked out, she let out the breath she had been holding. This was a strange world she was in. Nothing was as it seemed, and she was so lost. The man in the dungeon. Who was he to her? Why couldn't she remember him? She felt this strange connection to him. When this thought came to mind, she hurried out the chamber she was in and down the stairs. She asked several servants how to get to the dungeon, and was told it was closed to anyone but the Lord. It was then that she ran into the young woman Elizabeth. This woman held a strange emotion in her eyes, and it scared her, really worse than not remembering. "What are you doing here?" she asked. "I want to visit the dungeon. I feel the man in there knows me." Smiling, she replied, "Knows you? You are the lady of this manor, no one to him. Stay where you are needed, and stop pestering where you do not belong." Elizabeth rounded the corner, and Ying Ya frowned. Did this woman hate her? It sounded as if her words were cloaked with a deep anger and hate for her. Lost and confused even more, she turned to go, but someone called out her name. She turned to find a woman servant waving her fingers at her. "My lady," she said, and took her hands gently into hers. "The dungeon. It is located at the last door, at the end of this hall. Go there, and you shall find your answer." She smiled, touched. "And who are you?" "Angie, my lady. I am Angie." Pao let out a long groan as the rope began cutting into his flesh, and he felt the warm blood flow from his wrist. His throat was dry, and his knees ached. Water. He longed for water as he shut his eyes, wondering if Ying Ya was safe. He didn't know how many days he'd been in here. He'd lost count. He worried about her as his body was draining of life. The door opened, and he looked up expecting to see Duke Thor, but to his utter surprise, it was his wife sneaking in. She gently closed the door and walked in. Her eyes were uncertain of the situation. "My lady," he whispered, his heart hammering to life at the sight of her. "Are you well? Did he harm you?" Shaking her head, she replied, "No. But I am full of questions of who I am and who you are. I do not understand anything going on right now." He felt the tears enter his eyes. What did Duke Thor do to her? He tried to stand as straight as possible and gathered all his strength. "You are my wife, Ying Ya. You belong to me. Duke Thor is a man of hate and anger that would steal another's light and dare to erase her memory of me. You are mine. Do you remember me at all?" She shook her head. "No, but I feel a deep connection when I look at you. I can't help but feel safe." And then she walked toward him and reached out a hand to touch him. He closed his eyes, feeling safe at once. He let out a long breath, and when her hand reached his cheek, He turned into her touch and kissed the palm of her hand. He watched as her eyes closed and a single tear dropped from her eye. "That felt nice," she whispered, "like I am supposed to know it." "You do know it," he said. "You know only my touch, my lady." And then he remembered something, and he whispered, "Come here. Lean closer to me. I won't hurt you, I promise. I just have something to say." He watched as she questioned the situation, and then she leaned in closer to him. "Now just listen to me and close your eyes." When she steadied herself, he whispered, "My lady, comfort is here. Listen to the sound of my voice and come home to me. Don't go to the dark, my lady. You are mine, my all, my everything. Come to me. Listen to my voice. Come here. Come home." The words he'd said to her that night when she was lost in a nightmare, and the day of their wedding gently whispered into her ear. At first he stilled, waiting, and then lost hope when nothing happened. But then a sob was heard, and her arms came to wrap around him, an echo of a voice that he'd forever grained in his heart. "My lord," she whispered as she nuzzled against his neck. And then she pulled back, and he saw that she'd returned. She touched his face and kissed him deeply, fiercely, and reached for the ropes that tied him. Duke Thor opened the door to the dungeon and found the ropes on the ground, discarded and no sign of Lord Pao. His heart sunk as he heard footsteps behind him, and turned around to find Elizabeth nearing him. Her eyes were filled with a deep fear. "What is it?" he asked. "It is the king." He rushed past her and out the front, where indeed the king's army and the king himself was on a horse situated outside his manor. He began shaking as he looked all around, hoping to catch Lord Pao in sight, but he was nowhere to be found. "My king," he said as he dropped to his knees, "what glory it is to have you on my land today." King Andrew got off his horse and began walking toward him. "Duke Thor, I have heard that you play a mean game of chess. Why is it that you have not come to challenge me?" "My king, I am nothing to compare to you." King Andrew smiled, and then he removed his sword from his waist and tapped it against Duke Thor's shoulder. "Indeed, smart words for a man in trouble." And then he looked up and shouted, "My boy, where are you?" And to Duke Thor's horror, the small door leading to his cellar opened, and Ying Ya appeared holding a bloody and exhausted Pao. When he tried to get up, the king placed his sword on his shoulder. Once they reached them, Lord Pao was near caving in, but Ying Ya held on to him tightly. How did he break the spell? The witch had said nothing could break it once casted. "Summon Elizabeth," Pao said. "Summon them both." Ying Ya watched as the water turned a crimson shade as Pao sat in the tub. Her eyes were filled with tears, watching the blood run down his thick, muscled arms, and then he tilted her chin up to look at him, where he captured her lips and kissed gently. In one fleeting moment, his words brought her back to life, the same words that would always save her when she was in a dark world. She couldn't believe the scheme that Duke Thor and Elizabeth had drawn up together, and she hated the fact that she fought for Elizabeth when she had been pure evil. "My lady, give me a smile, will you?" he asked gently. "How can I smile when you are hurt?" "It doesn't bother me. What bothers me are your tears." She sobbed and kissed him gently, and then he surprised her when he pulled her right into the tub on top of his lap, where the water overfilled onto the ground. Inside his arms, he nuzzled her neck as she curled like a kitten around him. "The two will be facing execution tomorrow afternoon," he whispered. And then she looked up at him. "He never got the chance to do anything with me. I just wanted to tell you that, after finding you and sending Angie to the king, I couldn't believe the game that the two of them had played." He smiled and touched her cheek. "It doesn't matter. Even if he did, it doesn't matter, because it was not by choice of yours. But if he had, I would have personally cut his own head off, only because he hurt you in a place that was not his to touch." She sobbed and touched his wounds. "I will take care of these, and make sure that nothing is left behind. My lord, she whispered as she looked up at him. My heart is so full of emotions right now. I do not even know where to begin to share with you how I feel. You know how I've always been shy about my emotions. He smiled and pulled her lower to him. Then don't talk, my mousy bride. Show me how you feel. Thank you for tuning into this. I certainly hope that you enjoyed Ying Ya and Pao's story. I will see you in the next episode.
He doesn't need fires. He's got his colors noticed on and on and on, turning heads to see the colors. It goes on and on and on and on. Stranger says he'll regret his armor. They don't get what it's like to be no one, no one, no one, no one. We don't wanna be hiding. We don't wanna be fighting. We don't wanna be running from the sun. We don't wanna keep trying. We consider denying. We don't wanna be running from the sun. Of ebony publicity, she carries on and on and on and on. Small town words are filled with bias, and they'll go on and on and on and on. A stranger says, poor girl with that armor. They don't get that it's her choice to have a veiling golden, golden gold. We don't wanna be hiding. We don't wanna be fighting. We don't wanna be running from the sun. We don't wanna keep trying. We can stand the denying. We don't wanna be running from the sun. 'Cause we would die to have a place like home. Yes, we would die to have a place like home. Stranger says we don't want our armors, but they don't get we can choose. 'Cause we're like one, like one, like one, like one.